It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's our goal. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I am Tom Papa. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode filled with bread, food, wine, and comedy. You guys are the best. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you so much for giving us all of your good vibes and your good likes and your stars and your reviews. It means a lot, and it helps spread the word and grow our community, which is what this is all about. Thank you so much for all of your pictures of all of your attempts at bread baking and all of your attempts at making some of the stuff that we've talked about, the sauces and the stuff, and you guys are the best. And thank you for maybe we should just start a thing where we're just called breadheads, kind of like the dead followers, breadheads. Think about it. We can get into it later. Today I'm very excited because we have a great couple of guests. We've got Kate Pepper from Kate's Breads up in Ojai, California, one of the most artistic bread bakers I have ever met. I've been a fan of hers for a long time, and I got in my car and I drove up to Ojai and spent a great afternoon with her. She's amazing. And we take a quick bite with my good friend Kathleen Madigan, one of the funniest people on the planet. And we check in with her and see what she's eating and how she's surviving during the pandemic. Thank you so much to Wine Access. Again, our good friends at Wine Access, you've heard me talk about them plenty of times because they're good friends of the program. I love them so much. They are helping me just appreciate wine it's at a level I never have before. Not only do they curate some of the best wines at exceptional values, they also have a new podcast called Wine Access Unfiltered. I got to be a guest on December 3rd episode. It was a treat chatting with Amanda and Vanessa. We opened up some bottles. It was a great time. It's a great podcast. It's a good thing to listen to when you just want to hear other people that you know and love and hear about their wine experiences. You're going to love it. And while you're at it, visit wineaccess.com/papa, P-A-P-A, for $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. And even better, they're donating 10% of all gift card sales to No Kid Hungry for all of December. So you can feel great about treating all your friends to a Wine Access gift. What have I been eating? What have I been cooking? What have I been doing over the last week or so? I'm not going to spend too much time getting into it because I spent a lot of time with Kate and Kathleen, so I don't want to bog you all down. But let me just say, if you haven't just broken out the simplicity of spaghetti and meatballs, I think it's a good time to do it. It's cold out. It is a good, nourishing dish. And I'm telling you, making meatballs is a joy. Some parsley, some chopped meat. You can throw in some pork if you'd like. I rarely do. Some egg, some Parmesan cheese. Mush it all together. Fry it up in some oil. Throw some onions halfway through. When they're ready to be turned, they will free themselves from the bottom of the pan. It's a very easy way to know that you're getting it cooked the right way. Spaghetti and meatballs makes people happy. And I did it last Sunday. Again, we talked a week ago about the importance of cooking on Sunday. And we had my niece in. She had gotten COVID at college. She's all filled with antibodies, so it was one of the rare instances where we could actually have somebody visit. And I love cooking for her because she's a college kid, and there's no greater audience than college kids. When you don't realize or you forget that when you were in school how hungry they are and how poor they are. And they just don't have any good, really good food. And when they can actually get it, she came in and she was like, "What are you making me?" It wasn't like, "What are we getting? Are we ordering out? Are we getting pizza?" It was like, "Please feed me something." So happy to do it. And she's a meat eater, so I just cranked out some spaghetti and meatballs. Man, just so solid, so good. And if you have a couple meatballs left over, oh, it's just one of those joyful things. It's like, yeah, it's simple. When you're out and about, you rarely order spaghetti and meatballs. Do it. Make it. Enjoy it. And also, I would like to give a shout out to chocolate and red wine. It is the Christmas season, and we had little treats nibbling around. We had some little nuts and some things hanging around on the counter, and we didn't go really put our foot on the gas until recently. Actually, my niece was the one who brought over this box of truffles from Trader Joe's, and I forget how decadent and joyful really good chocolate is with red wine. Oh, you're not going to sleep great that night. There's a lot of sugar bolting through your system, but man, oh man, is it worth it. Oh, that really says the holidays, and especially this year when you're not going around and going to the fancy parties and doing the fancy things, making your home a little fancy, giving yourself fancy moments. Come on. Let's just plot that night out. You made yourself meatballs, which is not a hard thing to do. And you had this great meal, spaghetti, meatballs, some garlic bread, salad, done. And then there's red wine left over from the meal, and you break out the truffles, the dark chocolate truffles. There you go. Who needs to book a flight to New York? Who needs to travel anywhere? Who needs a crowd? Who needs a party? I don't. That is a special night. Kate Pepper, when I started baking bread and started really getting into it, I started looking on Instagram and looking at different bread accounts and seeing what other bread people liked other bread people. And it just, you just start going down the wormhole of what this community is. And Kate kept coming up on everybody's feeds. Everybody's account was linked to Kate. Kate has this little bread shop in Ojai, California. You have to go to her website to order the bread. You put in your orders, not just bread, scones, croissants, yummy goodness. There is a artistic bent to everything that Kate does. I've been there twice, I think, where I actually got bread from her, where I introduced myself online. It's this little shop off of the main house where it's just a bread paradise. I can't tell you how happy I was to be sitting in there for an afternoon with Kate, because this little, it's not a shack, that's making it seem a little lower than it is, a hideout. Let's call it a bread hideout, because everything in there is for baking. The table where the flour's stored, the little refrigerators, the oven. It is my dream space. It really is. You just walk in there and it's like, this is what you would do in here. There's nothing else to do in here but bake as great baked goods as you possibly can. But the difference is that Kate is the one in there making it. She is just a beautiful soul. Follow her account on Instagram. You'll see that all of her stuff that she makes, her scones, her croissants, her breads, they all have this rustic, funky, cool, artistic style to them. They really stand out as their own thing. I've never seen an array of stuff that is so individual and so linked up and such an expression of the baker that is making it. She is so great. And to sit with her and just kind of like get into, she loves talking about it. She loves doing it. She really, truly, truly loves the history of bread baking, loves the process of doing it. She works hard. She's in there. You'll see from her Instagram. She's in there late at night, cranking this stuff up for all the people that are going to show up on a Sunday morning ready for their orders to be filled. And she's in there most of the time cranking it out by herself. It is an incredible amount of work. Running a bakery is a ton of work, and she does it all herself. And it's fueled by her passion and love for it. She's amazing, and you're going to love the interview. You're going to learn about bread. You're also going to learn about the life of this artist. So enjoy Kate Pepper, and at the end, we'll give a quick bite. We will call in to our friend Kathleen Madigan, one of the funniest comedians on the planet. She's just legit super, super funny, so naturally funny. She's just amazing. I'm sure you're fans of comedy, so she needs no introduction, but everybody needs compliments. And I can't tell you how impressed I am with Kathleen. I learned from her. You almost can't learn from her because she's so naturally funny. She's so herself that she can only be her. And anybody that tries to copy it, good luck. You just don't live that life. You're not that person. Kathleen Madigan is special, and we check in with her, and she gives me some tips on eating on the road. All right. So first up, Kate, and then Kathleen. Enjoy. It's so nice to be in here. Really.
I'm glad you're here.
I know. This is very exciting.
You have to talk real close. In this thing.
You've been doing well. You haven't missed a beat. You're cranking out a lot of stuff. You're leaving it out on the curb. So people are just coming up and picking it up.
Tossing it out there. If you want it, you can come get it. I was worried about it. A neighbor said the other day, said, you really have this sort of honor system going here. And they said, you don't worry. And I'm like, well, I actually didn't think about it. I didn't think that anybody would want to come up and steal a bag of bread. I mean, of all things to go steal.
That would be really.
It's not going to be a bag of bread.
No. Yeah, it's like leaving the Halloween candy. It's like leaving the bowl.
Exactly. Same thing. It's the same exact thing. So.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. I mean, if someone's into like artisanal bread and they'll drive all the way up here to get it, to steal at the end.
Well, I had a group that did come up and they threatened, and because I
What do you mean
I was exhausted and I just finished working and I was hiding, and they were texting me, come out, and then they finally wrote, well, we're going to just take some bread if you don't come out. And I was like, oh my gosh.
What?
So I'm running out, and they're like, well, we didn't know if we could just, get something, if you still had something left. I said, no, no, I
Jeez
don't.
Louise.
But people, they get excited.
Yeah.
I think that
I would
I
imagine.
think this business and this product is a very exciting product for people.
Why? What do you mean?
There's nostalgia to it.
Uh-huh.
There's something that's just sort of like an old thing. We all love it. I think that's like what I was saying to you earlier about bakery business is doing relatively well.
Yeah.
During this pandemic, not incredibly well. I hate saying that as a general term, but relatively so because it's a pickup. You come, you grab your breads and your pastries, and you you go, and and people love to know that they have that in their kitchen.
Right. Yeah.
So.
You're kind of set up for it.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing when the fear back in like March, April, when everyone was running out of yeast.
Oh, I was fearful.
You were fearful?
I was sitting here and I was thinking, well, wait a minute. I mean, if everybody's taking all the yeast and the flour and the everything, and I use a sourdough mainly, so I'm lucky that way. But there are certain things. My croissants are a sourdough base, but they have a Polish in them, of course.
Right.
So I use a little bit of yeast, and so. But I was having a butter problem. I couldn't find butter.
Oh my God.
So butter was a tricky one. So I was going to all the stores, just going to the back rooms and just being like, do you have butter? Who has butter? Who has butter? Walking out with whatever butter I could find from whatever store I could find it from for the croissants. And I was like, so it was.
Was there a moment where you just had a week or so without no butter?
I made sure I had it. I was searching. I was like, because I had orders coming in and I was like, no, we're going to make this work. And I don't know if but anyway, it was, but it makes you troubleshoot too. It makes you go through everything and think, okay, how can I shift this if I need to?
Right.
What can I do to make this work? If we can't do croissants, what else do we do? We make a ton of flatbreads maybe, or we make a ton, we have to shift it. Yeah. And I think everybody's having to do that now. I think,
100%.
Thinking about different ways to accomplish whatever they, used to do. And
yeah, everyone's getting very crafty.
I know they are. I had friends calling me up and saying, "You better get, pallets and pallets of flour in. You better call and order." And I'm thinking, I'm not sure where I would put it. I'm not like,
Right,
like,
yeah.
I could do that, and
Yeah.
everybody's stressing out about you're not getting the. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get my flour. I've got
Yeah.
my source, and
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah. When did you first bake bread? When was the first time that you?
That I baked bread. Oh, good. That I baked bread. I don't know. I come from. It's actually kind of funny. My mother is a very, very good cook, and
Right.
she, of course, is a mother of 4 of us.
Right.
And she has made every meal, morning, noon, and night from scratch our whole lives.
Your
That's
whole
what she
lives.
does.
How many kids?
She has 4 of us.
4 of you.
And she actually used to bake bread all the time. And I remember her coming down to school, and she'd bring the big spread of bread and
Oh,
garlic
yeah?
cheese and all this stuff. She was great. She'd always cater these little things for the school events.
That's great.
So I came from that. And then
Right.
she, of course, taught us, okay, when there's a party, you're going to make the salsa, you're going to do this, you're going to light the lamps, and we all had our jobs to do.
Right.
And so we did a little bit of cooking and learned that way. And then I ended up going away for a while to school, of course, to college, and traveled a bit. And
Yeah.
when I came back, I had spent some time in Ecuador, and I came back and I ended up meeting the farmer who lived next door.
Uh-huh.
And he was an organic farmer and had a CSA program. And I ended up working with him and moved in with him. The whole thing, and
Uh-huh.
for 12 years we did that. But he also had a wood-burning bread oven in the backyard that he'd built.
Oh.
And so we would do bread, and I started messing around with bread.
Right.
And sort of getting some books and doing it. And then I started doing a Christmas holiday bake for our shareholders. And then I started doing a weekly bread share program where I would bake 2 loaves of bread. Every week you get 2 loaves of bread with your big basket of veggies and your fresh eggs, and it was the whole
Right,
thing. It was
right.
beautiful. It was
Yeah.
really beautiful. And so
Was that on a big scale? Like
we
how
probably
many?
supported 40 to 50 families.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
great.
not everybody got bread, but it was enough that I
Yeah.
was doing 2 days a week baking, and then maybe like, I don't know. So I was probably doing about 30 families that I was doing bread for the
Jeez.
share program.
Yeah.
At that point, though, it was so much work to do the oven by myself
Right.
that I started just doing it in the kitchen from a residential oven. So I was just baking a lot
Oh.
in just a simple little oven and whatever,
So
and
wait-
making stuff up.
So when you're baking that bread, was it from a sourdough? Was it
No.
just a
No, I
yeast,
did a lot
kinda
of
like
ciabattas. I did a lot of basic breads. I was
Right.
just pulling books out and trying it,
Yeah.
and I was experimenting with my customers and just seeing what would work.
Did you have a sense that you were good at it already?
No. I mean,
Okay.
when do you have a sense that you're good at anything?
You're just
I
cranking
still
it
don't
out.
really have a sense of that.
Oh, really?
I'm not there. No, I'm just whatever I can do, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of it ends up becoming necessity for me. Like,
Uh-huh.
so at a certain point, we're doing that and everything. But then everything sort of shifted and changed.
Mm-hmm.
And my life transitioned, and I moved out, and I'd been with my partner for 12 years and had a little girl and moved out.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, well, what can I do?
Yeah.
The part-time jobs that I had at the time, being I was a single mother to a little 3-year-old, I had to move in with my parents,
Right.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
I had tons of horrible part-time jobs, like a lot of them that were very bizarre and strange.
Like
and
what?
no, well, it was like, catering for one thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm not good at that, the waitressing, but I was catering.
Yeah.
I was working for my sister's cloth diaper business as a delivery girl. So I was driving the dirty diapers.
Oh no.
Driving the clean ones too, and picking up the
Oh, and
dirties
picking up.
from.
Uh-huh.
I was working down at a little cafe in town, and the back line doing veggie burgers and just
Right.
cooking up those. I was
Cranking it
working at
out.
a friend's nursery, doing plant work, an Australian
Yeah.
native plant nursery.
You were like the gig economy before
I
the gig
was
economy.
like, it was crazy. And then my daughter was, really little at the time, so I
Yeah.
wasn't around. And then
Right.
I then at that point had this idea, and I was like, well, I was still baking bread. I still had managed to hold on to a few of my shareholders, my bread shareholders.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing it out of my mother's kitchen, and that wasn't great, going great. So
just cranking
it was
out.
just kind of whatever I could, just to hold on to a little bit of what I had been doing, because I lost everything.
Right.
And so it was just losing everything and starting over.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go take a course at the Women's Economic Ventures thing in Ventura, which is a business course for women.
Right.
And my brother at the time was working in Santa Monica at Rustic Canyon.
Right.
As a chef behind Evan. And then he then moved over to Milo and Olive and was working there. And so I said, look, would you be able to get me down there? You know, so I started commuting down there, gosh, I don't know, once a week.
Right.
And I'd stay for 3 shifts. So I would hit every shift. I'd get there at 11 in the afternoon and go till 7, and then get the 3 shift to 11, and then another afternoon shift, and I drive home.
Jeez. Doing what?
In the kitchen doing bread.
In the kitchen? Oh, really?
It was the first time I ever had gotten into a kitchen to work on bread.
Right.
I'd gone to a lot of bakeries before, but they all said, you don't have culinary background, you don't have schooling behind you, we can't take you into our kitchen.
Really?
This went on. I'd checked out at least 8-10 bakeries that said no.
Jeez. And was that because of regulation, or because they just didn't
just
have
because I didn't.
faith?
I had
right.
they didn't have faith.
Right.
Yeah. They're ridiculous.
It's so crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, how many people are coming into a bakery and being like, please let me work in here?
I know. And I'll do it for free. That's what I didn't get. So, but maybe they didn't want their formulas still. I don't know. I was going through the list of why don't they want me? I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
Granted, and they, some of them I'd be like, I'm a mother and whatever. And then they're like, oh, you're a mother with a little kid. That's not going to work out. But my brother, Sam, he had chatted with Zoe Nathan, and they were incredibly accepting of the idea of me coming down and interning in their kitchen.
And he's a cook as well?
My brother is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a chef, and he lives in Colorado now, but he worked for them for a long time.
Gotcha.
And so I did it. So I went down, and I was still working all the other jobs, and I was doing the business course, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get in this car and drive down to L.A., every week and not sleep. And
it's a lot.
Try to learn.
Right.
And the idea for me was I was planning in my head this business, and I thought I need kitchen experience. I don't need bread experience. I need to know how to work a mixer. I need to know what a big oven does. I need to learn what it means to have a production schedule. Yeah, all that stuff. A lot of stuff.
So you had in your head, like, you're cranking it out in your kitchen, and you still these families, but you know in your head, this is a direction you want to go.
Not necessarily that I wanted to go, but that I needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, I thought, this is something I know how to do, and there's potential for it. Like, I can see this actually work. Now, my dad did not think so. He said, look, you can give this a try for a year. When it doesn't work out, we'll sell everything off, and you can whatever. And I was
really?
like, oh, thanks.
Thanks, Pop.
Thanks for the support. So anyway, but if people don't do this sort of stuff, or they're not in the food industry, I don't think that they understand what it means, that this is something that people want. Granted, it's not a product that you can ask a huge amount for,
right?
But it's a product that people are going to come back for over and over and over again.
Right, they're passionate about it.
Yes, and so instead of all of this idea of moving to these tech stuff and moving fast this is a different sort of business that says, wait a minute, let's all slow down and come back to what's really good, that's healthy and that's wholesome, and that feeds you a story and a feeling. And
now, are you getting that idea, or do you have that feeling when you go to that kitchen and you're working with your brother? Like, was like that?
It was different. It was definitely. I'd never worked in a restaurant before. I'd never been in one in the back kitchen, and so I didn't know. I really enjoyed going in there and just watching, and they were kind to me. They didn't treat me. They kind of knew I was just in there for a little experience, and I don't think they took it seriously.
Right.
And I was some extra help, so it was like, and so I got to see and quietly learn what I could in a space like that. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, oh, okay, I can probably pull something together.
It started to make sense.
And
like you were like,
things started to make a little bit more sense, and so then I started trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, how is this going to happen?
Because that is a thing that there is like just the baking of the bread and getting into it and being like, yeah, I'm good at this. But like you said, like, how does the mix work? How do you order stuff?
It's a different
what
thing.
suppliers? Like all that kind of stuff is
a huge thing.
But it didn't intimidate you.
No, I've been very slow. I've got a
Uh-huh.
very slow business trajectory. Like I'm like just every day I'm like, we'll see if this works. And like just slowly go with it.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I've had the opportunity to learn. The reason
Right.
I'm slow is because I'm a mother, and there's just been so much I can do.
Right.
Being able to try to spend time with my daughters still, and you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
because of that, I feel very lucky that I had the ability to really take things very slowly and a step at a time to really hone my craft for one thing, which was not very good at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and really understand, you know, what my orders are and what it takes, what supplies I need to get, how often.
Yeah.
You know, timing a big bake is tricky. You're working backwards.
Yeah.
You know, you say to yourself, well, I have to have this done at 12 o'clock on a Sunday. Well, when do I start?
Right.
And that's 2 days beforehand.
Right.
And so there's a lot of processes. Instead of, you know, you bake 2 loaves of bread, which you know.
Yeah.
And that's still a process.
Yeah.
But you got some time in between. There's things to do, you
If
know.
it fails,
Nobody's gonna
nobody
say
even
anything.
knows.
Yeah, I hope nobody knows either. When I fail, I'm like,
No, when
"Eat
you
loaves,"
fail,
but
everybody
I'm-
knows. No, when I'm just like, if it screws up, I was like,
Oh, it still tastes
it's
delicious.
disappointing, but yeah, right. And then you just go about it, and you just don't show it off to everybody.
Right.
But when you have people like waiting for you,
Yeah.
that's a whole different.
Well, it's intimidating, and
yeah.
I am not a perfectionist, really. I am not a baker like a lot of bakers. I see a lot of bakers, and they are very particular.
Yeah.
Work with temperatures.
Right.
Are very careful. A lot of men actually, and very much that way, which I kind
Yeah.
of it's so fascinating for me to see.
Uh-huh.
But very very scheduled and really hitting temps and really careful about everything. My approach always has been just to see and
Right.
which is really,
Yeah.
and with baking, if you're not baking cakes and cookies, you actually have the ability to be a little bit more organic in the way you bake your breads. And people get scared, but for me, to be a good bread baker, all it takes is time. It takes time to just practice and keep baking and baking.
Yeah.
With every mistake, you figure out that's even better. And like, it's a very organic process. And I hope that people can understand that about my process and my bread, because it's never the same. I mean, every bake is different.
Yes.
So it's
But
like,
there is an underlying consistency. You can
hopefully, that maybe other people think.
Right. Right.
know if
Yeah,
it's
they
there.
don't know it. Right, exactly. But
Yeah.
no, the reason I was attracted to you from the beginning, when I started getting into it and started learning about it, and I had read something that you had written a couple times on your Instagram. You had posted some stuff that you wrote just about the process of going through and doing it. And that was the thing that piqued my interest, was the artistic part of it. Like you weren't beholden to recipes. You weren't like rigid. And I'm not that way either. I don't have a baker's head like that. But I try and tell people, I was telling my mother this the other day, that bread's kind of in between.
Yeah.
You have a little give. Like you can kind of go
Really,
by feel. Like
it just depends on what kind of bread you want to make, and it's your choice.
Right.
And that's the thing.
Right.
You know, there is no specific thing you have to do. I mean, if you can figure out how to get your bread to rise, you're doing all right.
Yeah,
You know?
right,
Like,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
And you can adjust it however you want to adjust it, for flavor or for texture, and it's a game, and it's this ever-evolving game. And I remember somebody telling me one time this idea that, you know, as a cook or a chef, you're making an omelet,
Right.
and it's taking you 5 minutes to make an omelet, and you mess up, and you're like, oh, it was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You're making bread, and you pull out a loaf of bread from the oven, and something happened, and you have to think back 2 days to figure out where you fucked up, where you messed up.
Yeah.
And like, you have to figure out where that is. And that's really like, it's a long process of where you can really mess something up.
I know.
So you have to become excited at the fact that, oops.
Yeah.
It's okay, because
right, exactly.
messed that
No,
up.
there is something cool to that.
yeah.
Yeah. And do you now, when you were going through that process, just that thing, you kind of know along the way when, this was proof too long, or this was.
Generally, I would say the majority of problems are going to start with your starter or your leaven. That's where I find that most things start to go awry if they're going to.
Right.
So when you mix your leaven, depending on the temperature and depending on how wet you mix it and depending on a lot of different things that can affect the amount of time. So then you're watching from the second you mix that.
Right.
You're watching it and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to give that this many hours. Well, by 6 hours after you've mixed it, you're ready to mix your dough and you're looking at it and it's not right. Then you're like, okay, I'm going to have to push it another hour or not.
Right.
Or I've overshot it already.
Yeah.
If you've overshot it already, well, then you guarantee know that this is all the bread's going to be overproofed along the way and you're going to end up with a really fluffy or flat bread by the end. It's just what happens.
Yeah.
So it's a game of like, wait a minute, and then it's hot. It's 110 degrees outside, and you're like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this?
Yeah.
Or then it's the next day. It's really cold, and you're like, everything's just too cold. And I don't have temperature control in here. This is very much.
Yeah.
I mean, once those ovens are on, and you can feel it because I had that oven on. It's hot in here.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
this is
I remember looking at you posting during the summer. It was like during the heat, like during the 120,
So
kind of like.
That was
up against,
so hot.
Yeah, and you were so sweaty and you
miserable.
Just knew that, and you knew how to crank it up.
Oh
and there was another one. Wasn't there another one where you were like, "It's not happening.
No,
We're not doing that this weekend."
No, there's a certain point that I hit, and I'm like, I cannot do this. And people are like, well, yeah, it's so hot, it's gonna be hard on you. And I'm thinking, well, honestly, it's not necessarily that I can't do it in the heat.
Yeah.
But the bread's just not gonna. It's just gonna not be right. And
Right.
It's just gonna be a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
And then again, I am sweating. I'm a mess. Everybody makes fun of what I wear in the shop, or I get all these comments of things, and I'm just like, look, it's hotter than hell in here.
You come
and
in
I've got
here.
my elbows deep in dough. I'm working so hard.
Yeah.
So you can say whatever you want. But
alone most of the time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some workers for a bit, great workers.
Yeah.
And it was sort of when we were expanding, but then when COVID hit. I scaled back, and I've been able to do it on my own. So the bakes are all me.
Yeah, wow.
I have some ladies that come in like for a couple hours before people pick up to help me pack things and organize. But the bake is
But
me.
they're not baking, yeah.
And so it's a process, and it's a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
way.
God. So back to the leaven when.
Oh yeah.
So you have one that you go from, or do you have a couple?
So I have a starter. I got my
Uh-huh.
mother, and I work with her, and I'm basic with it. I don't do a lot. Like I have,
Right.
it's basically it's a 50-50 mix of whole wheat and white and water. So I don't do rye in it.
50-50.
Yeah, I don't do any of that stuff. I sort of just do the the regular thing, and then have a really basic starter. Before every mix, I'll make a leaven. So I'm basically bulking up my yeast is what I'm doing.
Right.
And so I bulk it up, and then I let that sit for 6 hours, or 5 or 7, or whatever it takes.
Right.
And then that's what I mix into my dough. So, the idea behind a starter is just that you've got a yeast that you're working with, and it's, whenever, I should say it's not even with the leaven where it all starts. It's really with the starter. With the feeding of it. And,
Yeah.
do you want to push it to its peak and let it fall before you mix it into your leaven? Or do you want it to be just before the peak? Or there's variations.
What? Yeah.
I've gone through
Answer that question.
What is that?
Because
it's I did it one way for a long time.
right.
I'm not sure I really remember exactly what it was. And then I
Uh-huh.
ended up going to Tartine for a few days. I got the opportunity to go up there and work with some of the bakers
Right.
randomly. And I was chatting with Richard one day, and he was the head baker up there,
Right.
Richard Hart. And
Yeah.
he was telling me kind of when they're using their starter and when they're making their leaven and when they're doing all that and their process for feeding and all that. And so I came back.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm going to do that now. So I started
Right.
that process. Sure enough, it changed my bread completely, and I hated it. And I was like, this is not good. It had a really tight crumb, and it had no flavor. And I was like, what? Why did that shift? Like, why was that? And what had happened was I was using it more on its rise and just as it was peaking.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I like it to be spent. So
It's over the top.
It's way over the top. So
It's-
I'll feed the mother in the evening at around 7 o'clock, and then I'm mixing my leaven the next day at around 10.
Oh, so
she's
that's bubbled up and flattened
flattened.
back out.
And that's when I use her.
Ah.
And I don't know why. I like it. She
And
gets
is
more
that
flavor.
or consistency or
It's more flavor. And
density?
I find that there's more air in my dough and a more open crumb with it. But for me, it's more flavor. I
It's the
really go for
flavor.
flavor. I'm not a huge crazy nut about the crumb.
Right. Yeah, I know. That became like very trendy.
It
Like,
got really
you have to have
trendy,
these
but
big holes in it.
Yeah,
and all
which are
that.
beautiful. And if you get that, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's
But-
right. It's cool, but it's also. Then I also get complaints around the house like that you can't put anything
You can't
on it.
put anything on it. There's too many holes in it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But I think
But the
the
flavor.
flavor's a big one. And now my sourdough is not really crazy sourdough or sour. It doesn't have
Right.
that. But I find that it has a lot of layers of flavor, which I really like.
Right. Right.
So like you'll bite into it and it's a little nutty and a little sweet, and then it walks into this sort of sour kick
Yeah.
a little bit along the way, and I kind of love it, and I've learned to really love my bread.
Now, is that consistency in the flavor? Is that because it's all coming from that same starter, and that's
Probably.
not going to vary too much, right?
It's probably because it's mine and it's
Yeah.
from here.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
this is very much a product of this kitchen,
Right.
which is why I love bread.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
love that bread. I wish people would be excited to eat different bread all over,
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to look a certain way and be a certain way. The exciting thing about bread is that it's very much a product of your community and your town and your home
That's right.
and your climate and environment, and that's why it's such a beautiful thing. You know?
Yeah, and your heart and soul.
Exactly,
Because now
'cause it's
you're
work.
you're really paying attention to
Yes.
it, and
Yes.
you're really in tune, and
Yep.
it's you. You're
Yes.
a part of it.
And that's what I talk about when the idea of time, and really to really become a good bread baker. It's not about reading a book and what you know, and
Yeah.
getting your thermometer out, timing everything great. No, it's
Yeah.
about learning over and over again what it is that makes your
Right.
bread what your
Yeah.
bread. And there is a creative element to this, and there is an artistic element, and there is a scientific element, and it's all of that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more room to play as
Yeah.
a baker.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so interesting. Like you come back from tartine and you would think, and it really does. I always think about it when I was learning to play golf.
Oh, yeah.
And I was managed to like
Can't even
kind of do it.
imagine.
Yeah. It was a nightmare. And I managed like to get through
Mm-hmm.
games. Like I could hold my own. And then I went for a lesson and he took it all away.
Oh.
And was like, you're doing it wrong, and this is
Doing
going to
it all
start all
wrong.
over again. And I was like, no, this is horrible. Like I have to, and that's how I feel
Yeah.
with the bread. It's like you get
Yeah.
good at like a certain like 3 different loaves, and you like
Right.
kind of have your idea, and then it's like, do I want to venture into this new
And
world?
then you might make something else and it's just awful, or you might end up and it's just discouraging.
It hurts
I mean,
your pride.
it really hurts your pride.
It does.
I
You're
had
like,
a
know what
wedding.
I'm doing.
I know. And I had a wedding I was baking for when I first started this business. And sure enough, weather was 100 and something out.
Yeah.
And I was relatively new to my space,
Uh-huh.
and I baked, hundreds of loaves that
Yeah.
all overproofed and turned out Frisbees in the oven for a wedding. And I thought, I'm done. I'm done. Like, this is it. I'm absolutely done. And, and then I started, I had 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks one time where every single thing overproofed in the fridges. I don't know why. So badly that I would take them out, loading them in the oven, and I'm throwing the dough on the ground. What's wrong? Like, what happened? And like, so mad. And it took me 2 weeks to figure out that I had put a new plastic thing over the rack, thinking that it would keep the dough from getting dry.
Right.
And instead, it was just creating this moist, like, greenhouse effect in the fridge, and was overproofing all my dough.
Oh.
And it took 2 weeks before I realized what the problem was. And I was like, do you think you know things?
I know.
And then you don't know anything.
It's very humbling. I always
so
say it's a lot
humbling.
like stand-up comedy. Like
Oh, I
you can
can't-
get good at it,
Yeah.
and kind of know what you're doing, but you can fail at any moment.
Oh. And
Any
fail
moment.
really big, I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But instead of throwing
I
the
think
dough
that's
on the
gotta be
ground.
one of the hardest jobs out there is being a comedian. I can't.
Well,
even
if you're not
imagine.
funny.
No. Imagine. The worst.
While you're taking a sip and listening to my episode of Wine Access Unfiltered, the great podcast that they have, check out some of my favorite wines at wineaccess.com/papa, P-A-P-A. I'm always getting great wines from Wine Access. The list there is always growing. There's this Villa Antinori, this great wine from Tuscany that they sent me. Every time you open a bottle that Wine Access has sent you, you are going to open it with confidence. And you know that not only are you going to enjoy great wine, you also are saving your night. Because there's nothing worse when you have the anxiety of like, is this good? Should I share this with people? Is this going to help the meal? Is it going to make things better? Wine Access takes care of all of that for you and then gives you on top of that a great wine and great experience, and it shows up right at your door. Wine Access makes it so easy to drink great wine, explore by region, food pairing. They're just the best. You're gonna love them. You have to go and sign up at wineaccess.com. Any for last minute holiday gifts, you can squeeze it in. New e-gift cards are great for anyone on your list, and they're even donating 10% off all gift card sales to No Kid Hungry for the month of December. 10% off all gift card sales to No Kid Hungry for the month of December. So you're doing some good and you're helping them out, and you're also getting some great wine. Do your holiday shopping and support a great cause. It's a win-win. Also, go to wineaccess.com/Papa, P-A-P-A. Check out my favorite wines and get $20 off your purchase of $50 or more. There's still time to order for the holidays. Go to wineaccess.com/PAPA for $20 off. I like these people. I've met these people. They are good people. Their product is amazing. Truly, treat yourself. Go to wineaccess.com. And finally, our good friends at Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon took childhood cereals and the ones that you loved, all those, those fun Saturday morning mom's finally letting you be decadent and eat some sugary cereals, and you just created this love affair with them. And then you move on in life and you realize, I can't eat that stuff because I'm going to be as big as a house and filled with sugar and be depressed. Well, the good people at Magic Spoon have created a healthy version of those cereals. Cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry. They taste amazing. They're good for you. Listen to this. You get all the experience of eating those fun cereals with 0 sugar, 11 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. Yeah, pretty good. Keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, GMO-free. I mean, that's pretty great. I mean, who doesn't love those cereals? And then you come in a fun box. You get the fun flavors that you like. I like the cocoa one better than the fruity ones, but that's me. You might be a blueberry person. You might be a frosted person. Who knows? Go to magicspoon.com/Papa, P-A-P-A, to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code PAPA at checkout to get free shipping. That's magicspoon.com/Papa, P-A-P-A, for free shipping. If you don't like their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. We want to thank Magic Spoon for sponsoring our podcast.
No, I mean, just have people staring at you like, you didn't really go so well.
But it's interesting. You come back from Tartine and you would think that's like Mecca, and you're going to, whatever they say must be right. But no. No,
and that's what's so exciting about it.
Yeah.
And it's deciding who you're going to listen to and what you're going to learn from who, and like there's certain people that, Crystal down at Wayfarer Bread in San Diego, she worked up at Tartine. She's lovely and she's got her way of baking. And Richard Hart, who opened up, his bakery in Copenhagen, and he just makes me laugh. He's hilarious with his baking. He'll sometimes just take a handful of salt and throw it in a mixer and be like, yeah, it needs more. And you're thinking, that's what you like to see. You like to see that experimentation and that sort of playing with what's going on. And
100%.
You go to bakeries and oftentimes we have our product. So we have our system and we have our formulas, and they're predictable because that's what our clients are wanting and that's what our menu is.
Right.
So it's fun to go to different places because you then can find, I really like that bread over there, and I really like this product over here, and I really like, and you piece together kind of what you love about these baked goods, and you can then come back to your place and be like, well, this is what my menu is going to look like. This is how I'm going to piece this together to be kind of, my bakery and my cool stuff. And,
There was one time when you had in one of your videos where you were like, you're like, and you just took this water and just you were like too
Oh,
dry
yeah.
and just poured more water on it. I was like, wow.
I know. Well,
you
that's
don't
the
know
thing.
if that's 50 grams or 200
Well, you don't,
grams.
but you don't need to know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And like that's what's fun. But I start out generally, I scale out regularly like 70% hydration, but it always ends up almost at 90 or more.
90 or more.
Something because
Way.
I hand mix.
Right.
Because I hand mix, it's a lot easier to hand mix a ton of dough that's really hydrated than it is to mix dough that's not hydrated.
That's
very
right.
much. That's why I do a wet dough.
It's all loose. And
It's
you
all
can
about
get in
easy,
there
being
and
lazy.
right.
Yeah.
Just to keep your arms alive.
It's easier this way. So for me, if I'm scaling everything at 70% initially,
Yeah.
I put the flour in. Not all flour is the same. So you're going to get a bag of flour that might take more hydration than another bag of flour, depending on the harvest of the wheat.
In the same mill under the same label.
It's this exactly. It goes.
Right.
I mean, this goes all the way back. So
Right.
you're getting a wheat that grew during a rainy season, and it had whatever, and it's going to be milled differently, and so your flour is going to hydrate differently every time. You
Yeah.
can't go by, it has to be this formula.
Yeah,
no,
it was
it's
300
about
grams last time.
right. You have to go by the feel. So
Right.
for me, you start with your general thing, and then you move on from there, and you see
Right.
how it goes, and that's kind of the nature of it. In
Yeah.
here. Let's see how it goes.
Oh man. So when you where were you at when you were cranking out a lot of bread for people where you were like, all right, I'm kind of in it now? Like when you brought in this oven.
So I brought in the oven, which just recently I found out it's a lot older than I thought it was.
Oh no way.
I thought it was from 1980. That's what the guy told me. I found it in an alleyway in LA. And it didn't work, and I had
do you
a
mean
hard
you found it in
well,
an alleyway?
because it was really hard to find a deck oven to put in a residential area because of the amount of BTUs that it takes of gas. I don't understand those terms, but
Yeah.
so I searched, and all of the ovens that were big enough took way too much gas, and I didn't have the line to bring it up. And so all of a sudden on Craigslist, I stumble across this thing, and she's a beaut. And
When is this?
Oh God, this is when I kind of started the business. I had to have been
This is your
maybe
first
7.
oven. This is the
This
oven.
is the oven. Oh
Right.
yes, there's never been another oven.
Right.
7 years ago, 8 years ago, I don't
Right.
know, something like that, like
Right.
8 years ago. And I went down to LA, had my dad's big truck,
Yeah.
and talked to the guy, and he said, "Look, I don't know if it runs. I've never tried it." And it had 2 broken stones in it, but he said, "Look, I'll give you 3 months to try to get it to run, and I'll give you 2 new stones. And if you can get it to run, you're good. And if you can't, I'll take it back." So I thought, well, it's just my time. You know. In addition to that, these old ovens, if something goes wrong in these ovens, it's just the burner. That's all it's got is a burner. So that's only about $300 to replace a burner, which is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So you're spending the money on the big, massive, cavernous thing.
Yeah.
It was about $1,000, and I got it, and I brought it up here, and we got it going. And so he's like, it's from 1980s. It was like a pizza oven they used. So when I was having problems with everything a few months ago, and everything was falling apart, the oven was having a problem. And so I had this guy come up who's this oven guy.
Yeah.
He had to have been in his 80s, I think.
Oh, yeah.
He was an older man and had been doing this, had been working with ovens since he was like 17. And he said, "You know what?" He says, "I got to tell you, this is the oldest oven I've ever worked on." And I said, "Are you
What?
serious?" He said, "Well, how old is this oven?" He says, "Before 1960. So
Whoa.
I'm like, wow. Like, I'm working with an old oven.
Wow.
It's not a fancy oven, and it's not a bread
Wow.
oven, and there's no steam injection in this oven, and there's no anything. This is a real
There's
bare
no
bones.
steam in that?
No, I don't bake with steam.
Oh,
Yeah.
no way.
No, I don't.
Really?
I thought about it. I could be putting every single one of my loaves in a Dutch oven and sticking it in the oven. I could be squirting
Yeah.
bottles of water in it, all the time. I don't see the point. It's too much time and energy. Pizza ovens aren't built to hold steam.
Right.
So because of that, even if I try to shove as much water in there as I can, it's not going to hold it. So for me, I just decided this is the oven. This is the bread that is baked in this oven. And this is what we get.
Wow.
And
That's
it.
great.
That's it. And that's what I've been working.
That's so great.
But I'm able to bake the sourdoughs and all my pastries in it. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm going to admit something. Because, I love seeing the pictures, especially when you put everything out and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is the bake for
Yeah.
whatever, and you see it all. And I was like, man. And the one thing that would kind of keep me keep my self-esteem up was, well, she's got a big steam oven.
No, I don't have anything.
Now it's just me.
No, it's just you. Generally, it is. What do they say about a poor somebody blames his tools? It's always us. So yeah, I would love a good bread oven. I would love to see what my bread would do in it.
Injected and just.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about with that though is that they're so technical now, and they're all computer based. So like for me, I had a problem with this. The guy came up with a little thing and he stuck it in a tube and he's like, "Ta-da! Your burner works again." I was like, "Ooh!" And that was it.
Just the burner. That's
that was it.
Wow.
But if I've got something where I'm dialing in like all this stuff, and then the computer goes poof and whatever, and then I'm spending millions of dollars to fix my oven. Scares me.
That is scary. Mm-hmm. And you don't need it. You're cranking out good stuff.
I'm doing it right now. If I was able to get a bigger space, I'd get a better oven.
Yeah,
I would definitely get a better oven. But,
but this is a good mentality. It's better to like outgrow what you're doing to the point where you just have to. Yeah. Than like go chase it.
Exactly, and also to know what I'm doing. To learn this way so I know. And it's like, well, actually, like. You do need a lot to get something going, but I've managed in this space to be very thrifty. Mm-hmm. People say, well, why do you shape your loaves, like your Batard loaves, in Couche fabrics the way you do? Right. Well, it's because Couche fabrics are cheaper than getting baskets, for one thing. Uh-huh. And I can fit more bread in my limited refrigeration space using the Couche fabrics and the baskets. So there's reasons why my bread is a product of my space. It's a product of my limitations. And so that's how I work. And,
you just made it work.
You have to make it work. Like I said, my business was just basically a business of necessity. It was get up and figure this out.
And just go. So that's all your refrigeration.
I've got two here. This one I use for proofing or retarding, excuse me. And then the one behind you, which I have to shut with Velcro, is made in California. But it's a racket. It's a roll-in rack fridge. So I can fit maybe.
Got it.
I mean, I can bake off about 80 sourdoughs.
80.
In a bake. Right. So I'm limited.
So you're always sold out.
Oh yeah, I'm always sold out. I'm pushing my limits. Yeah. So I push them pretty far.
You're at the max of what you're going to be doing.
Oh, I'm at the max. If I could bake more during the week, right now I'm only doing 2 bakes. That's about 4 days of work plus a 5th day of the week, which is supply runs and getting everything. So it's a 5-day work week. Right. And the bakes themselves take a significant amount of time and hours. Right. When you're by yourself. So right. It's hard for me to fit in a 3rd bake during the week unless I have help.
Because what are you doing from when you start?
I usually start, depending on the bake.
Start shaping.
I usually will start my mix at around 2:30 in the afternoon. So in the morning I wake up, I scale out all the flour, I get my leaven mixed up, I prep everything I need to prep. I'll have a couple hours off before I come back in to then start mixing at 2:30. I'm usually shaping probably around 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, and then I'm usually up until it can be between 11:30 or 1 or 1:30. I'm up working and to be done shaping and finishing.
Done and getting everything in the fridge.
And then I go to bed and I wake up. I'm usually back out here at 3 or something in the morning.
You just went to bed at what time?
I know, right? 1:30.
1:30?
It depends.
And then you're back at 3?
Yeah. So usually a bake is a very long, and then this is what I'm saying. Yeah. It becomes very funny. It's like, so when people are like, why is she posting a video eating bread at 4 in the morning? It's because I've been up.
Yeah. And things are getting weird.
I was getting really weird. So I'm really weird right now. And I'm just hungry. And so that's what I'm doing. And then I'm trying to sell it. So this is a cottage food business. This isn't come up to my door and get a loaf of bread. This is I'm only open between these hours. So my Instagram has become an essential part of selling for me. Right. And letting people know when I'm available, when I have bread available. Right. And what I'm doing. And so that's why it's all gotten to be very humorous to me.
Are you running the website and the orders and doing all that?
Yeah, oh God, I do it all.
You do all that?
I do the whole thing.
Oh man.
I do everything on Instagram, everything on the website, everything. It's hilarious.
That's just that part is kind of maddening.
It's maddening
to think about, getting the orders and making sure all these people are.
I had a guy, Chuck. He was great. Yeah. He came in years and years and years ago, and I said, "Oh, I wish I had some way of doing orders and whatever." He left, and then he called me up. He says, "I built you a website, so there you go." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's great!" And so the website's been brilliant.
Yeah.
And he moved to Washington, and I can call him up and say, hey, look, can we get another order thing up? And then I understand it's basic, real
Right.
basic. So I understand how to do it. When the COVID
God.
hit, we had to shift it a little bit just to make it work.
Yeah.
But no, it's all me. And
Yeah,
it's funny.
It is funny. Like, you need somebody that's like just doing that part so you can just bake. So
Well,
you can
that's
just
the
do your
thing.
thing.
So I'm working, like, trying to figure out, okay, if I expand, what are the things I have to do
Yeah.
to expand and get,
Right.
how do you build a bigger production schedule, and how do you, divvy out jobs that need to be done
Right.
and things like that.
If you were to keep, I mean, this place would have to be baking every single day.
It would.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's on my
It's-
parents' property.
Right.
So I have to be careful about how many people are on this property and what happens. When we were doing our pizzas,
Right.
it was getting to be very busy, and it was almost hilarious how busy we were.
Oh,
and
really?
like,
You just started.
we were doing pizzas on Sundays after the
Uh-huh.
Sunday bake, and people come up, and we had tables set outside, and they'd get sourdough pizzas. We'd offer veggie or meat, and you
Uh-huh.
get what you get, and it takes forever,
Uh-huh.
and
And
But
people were
they loved it.
showing up. Yeah.
They were showing up, and people are just laughing. We're shoving pizzas out the window, and but there's lines, hundreds of people coming up, lines out
Hundreds?
the door. Oh yeah, it was big.
Wow.
And so the Sunday bakes became a really big thing, and then COVID shut it all, down. And so now
Oh.
I think the way it's set up now is much more appealing to my parents and their property. So we're not
Right.
going back probably to what it was until I can find a bigger space to expand
They were like,
into.
okay, this is a restaurant now.
It was
running
getting to
in
that
our-
point.
Yeah,
It
we
was
can't
getting
get
to
in
that
our
point.
driveway.
I know, it was it's like and I didn't know what was happening. So I was losing control over what was going on, and I was so tired that I was like, "Hey, just come on up. I'll make you something."
Man,
And it was
oh,
just
man.
it was delirium.
It's so cool because, I mean, this space is so perfect. I mean, it really is.
It's
like,
a great space.
oh
It's
my-
a beautiful space.
It really is.
I
And, like,
feel lovely working in it.
Yeah.
It's got a very good feel to it.
And it must have been a nice thing to, like, slowly, like you said in the beginning, like you
Yeah.
slowly were making your way. So when you, like, add that I'm going to do croissants,
Which
and
is
then
huge.
you need a sheeter, and
That was a big thing though, because you
That's-
can't make people forget bread's a funny thing because you can go down to the coffee shop
Yeah.
and spend. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know, but
Uh-huh.
a decent
$3
amount of money on an espresso or
Sure.
whatever, or something.
$5.
$5. Let's say $5.
Yeah.
And it takes them a second to whip it up, and
Yep.
you take it and you swig it down in a second, and you're like, okay. It takes us 2 or 3 days to make bread.
Yeah.
It will last a family a week.
Right.
It's sustenance.
Yeah.
And we can't charge probably more than $8
Yeah.
for a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So to make money on bread is really hard unless you're able to mass produce
Mm-hmm.
that bread. So to supplement, croissants are brilliant. And you can make some money on croissants if you have the tools to do them.
Right.
And so croissants have become a big thing, and they are a lot of work. They're a big process.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can do them, they're so damn good.
Yeah.
And people love them. So it really does
And you can
contribute.
charge more for
You can charge
what
a
it
lot
is.
more for what it
Yeah.
is. And so croissants end up being a very valuable part to a small bakery, I think, or any other pastries of sort.
Oh.
Bread's not going to be
Bread's not gonna do
a
it.
big money maker for you.
Right.
But bread's a big draw.
Yeah.
So
that gets
if you have
them in.
good bread, you bring people in, but you're not making a lot of money off good bread.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So when did you start bringing in the croissants?
I don't remember.
Like, were you a couple years in to just
I
do? Were
was-
you just doing bread for a while?
I was doing bread for maybe a year, and then I started doing croissants by hand, and then
Oh,
that
boy.
was.
Oh,
So
my
at that
God.
point, I was like, "Here we go." I'm like really, and
That's,
so
yeah.
that was tricky.
That's really tricky. How did you learn that?
I just figured it out. I mean, like
Yeah.
pull out another book and be like, "Oh, how did they do this?"
Yeah.
And then I haven't really learned much when I've gone to places. Like I've learned a
No.
lot about kitchens, but not necessarily about my product. My product, I really believe, has been very much my own experimentation. and
Right.
different formulas that I found that I like through different books and things
Yeah.
like that. But then I was doing the croissants, and I thought, well, if this is going to be anything, I need to get a tool. So the laminator came in,
Right.
$5,000 for this thing.
Whoa.
And I was like, I'm going to just do this.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant.
Oh my God! After doing it by hand,
These are great tools. I mean, I love my tools.
Yeah,
I
no
really
kidding.
do love like going. I'm like, ooh, I got that was and I had the money and I everything I've done has been very methodical and like, okay,
Right.
can I do this? And I had saved the money and I was like, I'm going to get the laminator and I did and it's a space saver one and
So
it's
great.
small but it does
oh
the
my
job.
God! How many croissants are you making in a weekend?
In a weekend, I don't know. I don't even know. I want
Yeah.
to say probably a couple hundred croissants
Uh-huh.
or something like that, but variations of it.
Right. I love that you don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, at a certain point, I don't know what I'm doing.
Really, I do like that.
don't know.
No, there's something to that. There's something to not adding it up and just going.
It's like if I've sold it, I've sold it. I got to make it. It's out
Yeah,
the door, and then I'm
yeah.
like, got to sell it again. So it's this process of this never. It's like making the bed,
Yeah.
You
yeah.
make the
right.
bed to crawl right in it at night, to then remake it in the morning, and it's just that's what this job is.
Yeah.
And for some people that would be hell. For some people that would just be the worst thing in the world. But I kind of love it.
You still love it.
I was an art history major in college, and I did art stuff, and I remember reading something somewhere about somebody talking about art as, true art is about creation and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the idea of the cycle, the cyclical process of creating something for it then to either be put out into the world or given away or destroyed and rebuilt. And that if it's just created and just held
Right.
in this one thing,
Yeah.
it loses its appeal. And that's what this is. This is constant creation, and then
Yeah.
we eat it, and then we make it again, and then we eat it, and it's
Move on.
Yeah, and you move on,
Yeah.
and we just keep doing it. And I
Yeah.
kind of like it. I kind of love
Yeah.
what food is to people. I'm a big food fan.
Where are you at now in your critical thinking of yourself and what you're making? Like,
Oh, I always think it's not great. I mean,
Uh-huh.
sometimes I'll have a day that I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I nailed it. Like, I don't know how
yeah.
I did it, but I did it. And but most of the time it's like in this space, it's either you wake up and you get good bread one morning
Mm-hmm.
and bad croissants, or you're gonna wake up and get good croissants and bad bread because one takes warmer temps and one takes cooler temps.
Right.
And so I am in this constant flux of how do I, and
Right.
so it's just a game.
Yeah.
It's just a fun.
No one's complaining.
No, I do
Yeah.
sometimes, but
Yeah, you're complaining.
I'm complaining.
But the people that are eating it aren't.
Generally, it's all right. And like I say, it's like my stuff's beyond rustic. It's like it's gone way beyond that point. Now
Uh-huh.
it's just sort of wild and feral. And it's like I create feral pastries and feral bread.
That's a good way to describe it.
It doesn't have that perfect look and doesn't,
Yeah.
but it's good and it's dirty and it's there and it's
And
thick
they're big.
and they're big and they're just
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we started doing these cinnamon rolls that people love, and
Oh,
that was
man.
just extra croissant dough. So it's like instead of throwing the dough in the trash, I'm able to use it and make $180 off of it. And I'm
Look at
like,
cinnamon
and
roll.
they're delicious. And
That's-
I'm like, why didn't I do this earlier?
Wow.
So it's just about.
Which one's on your mind right now? Is it like that you're playing with, need to tweak, that's got you a little frustrated maybe or excited?
Right now, what's my favorite one is the ham and cheese croissant by far. I hate though that I can't make enough money off of it.
Yeah.
That's a hard one
It's
because it's expensive to make,
ingredients. Yeah.
and it's hard to ask more than $6 for a croissant, but it's got to be
Yeah.
$7. But I'm struggling with that one.
Yeah.
But as for like what I'll tell you what I'm struggling with right now is the limbo that we're in with everything, and because of
Right.
that, I have a very specific bake I do, and it's the same product every time.
Right.
And I put it in a bag and I put it in the road.
Yeah.
And instead of being able to have that creative thing, and because it's just me, I don't have time
Yeah.
to be like, well, I'm going to experiment with this. I don't have time to experiment.
Right.
I don't have a crew in here baking what needs to get baked while I
Oh, you mean
focus on other things. It's
well,
like,
if we were pandemic free, you could have some people come in and you can.
yeah. And
do the
we're
thing
getting
and-
there. But again,
Yeah.
this is a small business. It's really built around one person,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
to expand would be brilliant. Just to be able to have that space and have the ability to bring other people in and train them or teach them or have them
Yeah.
bring in their skills and
Yeah.
kind of keep the food flow going and
Right.
be creative. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
a lack of creativity at this point just because of our situation.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that because I've been feeling the same thing just like with writing. And
Oh, yeah.
it's like you're able to kind of like, all right, we're going to adapt and then we're going to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And now 10 months in, it's like, all right, I've learned how to do it this way.
Right.
but we're not really moving forward.
Nothing's going on.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on.
There's nothing
it's
going on.
It's really hard, and
that is the thing.
We are just having to just sit and just keep going, pressing through, which is fine, and maybe it's necessary for us.
We have no choice.
We have no choice. That's what we're doing. But it is a little bit like, I didn't realize. I didn't realize I was that sort of person. I didn't realize that I actually enjoy the adrenaline of what this business is, and the people, and the moving forward, and the constant creation of stuff. And that's sort of been like,
no, that's a whole nother element that's missing. I mean, it's like me not going on stage. It's like when I came in here the first time, and there's a line of people out the driveway, and they're all giddy, as I was. Yeah. And it's like, I'm coming in.
There's excitement.
There she is. And there's all the flower, and this is the shop, and there's like an electricity.
There is.
Yeah, that's missing. I get it.
Yeah. No, it's kind of bizarre.
I get it.
But it's
But you're still cranking out great stuff.
I'm still doing it. And you know what? I'm making, quite frankly, I'm making a little bit more money now than I was before, just because I'm doing it all myself.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
so now as we move into the holiday season, do you try stuff? Do you do like a Stollen or any kind of those?
I'm not
weird
able.
breads?
I would love to.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like for Easter, I usually do a hot cross bun, which is a beautiful hot cross bun recipe from Tivoli Road. I don't know if you know them.
No.
Anyway, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But to do that, it's almost if that's all I'm doing, and I don't have the space or the ability to do all the other products that are needing to be done.
Because it takes over.
So I have to decide, well, am I gonna take this day to just focus on this thing, and then take another day where I focus on this thing, and have different days where I'm baking. Well, you're gonna get these breads on this day and this croissants on this day. So I just don't have the oven space to be able to bake off what I want.
Right.
Yeah, it's limited. It's a very limited situation.
Do you mess around with rye?
Not often. I do rye in our pizza dough. Like when we do pizzas, I always throw rye in that.
It's
I'd love to say
powerful flour, isn't it?
It's a very powerful flour, and I love it, and I'd love to do it. And I went. I've done some rye breads, and then when I was in Copenhagen, I was visiting a good old friend of mine in Copenhagen, and then I stopped in to see Richard, and we were talking about a bunch of of course, the Scandinavian ryes, which are beautiful and really amazing.
I've been fantasizing about it during this pandemic. I'll just have my iPad, and I just keep looking at Copenhagen. I
loved it. I absolutely
was it amazing?
loved it. It's beautiful. It's the most beautiful city, and people are so friendly.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I'm dying to go back. Bakeries are great. I didn't get to see Richard's Bakery done.
No?
No. He was in the process, so he was working out of a greenhouse over at Noma. And working through, and so I was able to go see that, which I felt really lucky. I was like, this is an amazing thing to be able to see Noma and kind of what they're doing. And so it was beautiful. And my good friend, she gave me one of those the old Scandinavian bread slicers for rye bread, which is basically almost looks like a what do they call those things?
Guillotine?
Like guillotine almost in a way, kind of. It's just this big thing, and you stick the bread in it. I've got it up on the corner. And you push it down, and it is the coolest bread slicer ever. But rye breads are so dense that they can take that sort of, slicing.
Right.
But I'd love to do some rye.
I messed around with one a couple weeks ago. I couldn't believe. I used mostly rye, and I couldn't believe what that was. That was like, forget it. You're not even shaping it.
No. It is very little gluten. To it.
There's nothing.
And that's
to it.
There's nothing, and it's very tricky to work, and you have to. Yeah. With rye, I feel like that's one of those sort of, you generally are going to get a dense loaf. There's very little gluten in it to work with to keep any sort of structure. So, it oftentimes, but it can be a very beautiful loaf because of that. And it's a very old grain that is lovely to work with because there's just the history of it, and And so, what people have used it for, and a lot of these colder, countries and places where they've got their rye and their, because it grows so well in the cold weather. And
those dark.
The
black,
dark,
brown
beautiful
breads and
it's beautiful.
Caraway seed and fennel seed on it. It was amazing.
Good. Yeah,
I love that you do that too. You seem to be very interested in the history of bread baking.
I love it. The photos that I'm finding I absolutely love.
Yeah,
I love seeing that the process hasn't changed that much. And that's what's kind of cool. Not only has the process not changed much, but people's appreciation of it hasn't changed that much.
Right.
Although I do have to say, this whole gluten-free movement especially here in Ojai. I was worried when I first started my business. I was like, why am I starting a bread business in Ojai, California? Of all places, everybody's going to be like, oh, I can't eat that. We can't eat that. We can't eat that. I'm just like, whatever. I'm just going to do it.
They'll come back around.
And they'll come back around. And sourdoughs are great for that.
They are.
They're great for gluten intolerances.
Yeah.
They're fermenting for a long period of time, so they're a healthy bread for that. And
That's
it's
right.
the old way of baking, which we so far got away from. So to look back at it, not only the history of it, but also to look at bread all over the world, I would love to travel and just check out everything I could, to go to spend time. I mean, a man from Peru, he recently had texted, or it was a little bit ago, and he has a bakery down there. He came to visit, and lovely guy, and he sent me this video of this man, this Peruvian man up in the Andes with the most massive stone mill, but a stone split in half, grinding them and milling this wheat that had been winnowed by horses that were just running on the wheat in circles. And I was like, that's what I want to go see. Like, I would love to just go everywhere and see how people are making their bread, because it's special to those places. It's not,
exactly.
And that's what I love about it.
Have you visited where you get your flour? You use Central Milling, right?
I do Central Milling. I haven't visited anything. I go up.
That would be cool just to see that.
It would be really cool to see that.
Right?
It'd be really cool. When I lived with my ex, actually, and we farmed, we grew wheat one time.
Oh, yeah?
So a few acres of it.
Wow.
And,
did it work out?
It worked out, but it was very hard to process. Oftentimes people, there's this whole new thing about, needing to get into more local wheats and grains and all this stuff. And the issue isn't the growing of any of these grains. Generally, the issue is going to be in the processing of the grains. And so processing places are hard to come by and hard to find.
Right.
So when we grew it ourselves, I was out there with the scythe just knocking it down, and then I got it and I bundled it, dried it, and then I had to stomp on it, and then I took the big fan out and I started winnowing it.
Oh my God.
I ended up with maybe 12 cups of flour. So then I got the wood out and I'm filling up the bread oven, and I'm like, I'm going to bake it wood fired, and it's going to be sourdough. And I was like, 12 cups of flour. And I was like, this just, that was like 3 acres of grain.
I know.
And
there are certain things.
5 months of work.
I know.
For 12,
There's certain things you're like, you know what? All right, I see this process, but I'm going to buy this.
Exactly. So, and there are people that do that because that's their job.
That's
and
thing.
and you have to appreciate
God
that everybody's got their place and what they're doing. And there's their tools and they're set up. But I would love to check out different mills and to check out flours. And it'd be fun to be able to just get out and really kind of see what people are doing all around.
I was really interested. I went to Grist and Toll.
Oh, okay. Oh, what did you think of that? Yeah.
It was a cool little shop. And they, they're very well known for having all of these different, and in my mind, I've just always carried, this is all wheat that's coming from around here in California, that's natural to this environment, and that's why you go there. And when I got to speaking with him, he was like, from everywhere.
That's I didn't know that.
There was stuff in Cincinnati, there was stuff in like Montana, there was stuff in Utah and California, because these smaller places that are growing that wheat, it's not that big of a moneymaker where they can do it consistently.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening. So these smaller growers and millers aren't able to actually survive off of what they're doing.
Right.
And that's why it's hard to really start focusing in on these different sorts of heirloom grains and all these things, because people, they can't make a living off of what they're doing.
Right, exactly.
So there's also like certain cross-contamination issues with, joint production places. So if you have a bunch of different small farms that want to get one place to do their, their cleaning and their processing, there's all these other things that happen. So it's really hard.
Bundled in,
But there is, I didn't know that they got from so many different places though.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised, and it was cool. It was like, okay, but it really, you see like this model, and it's the same thing with meat production and all of it. It's like, how can you get that chain to sustain for everybody in it, the grower, the manufacturer, where they're always making money, and then it can stay. It's a hard one.
And I always felt that same way. I know a lot of farmers in town because we farmed for so long.
Yeah.
And that idea of, these farmers are not making a lot of money off of their stuff.
Right.
And it's the restaurants that are pulling in the majority of the money off of what this produce is supplying. And it's kind of a bit of a warped system that way.
Yeah.
When it's that ingredient, that produce or that product that they're growing, that's the root of these extravagant meals or these things.
Yeah.
And they're getting,
well, they don't have candles and booze and all the rest of it.
And that's what it's all about. So that's the thing. So
that
exactly,
was the other thing. When
I know.
you start your pizza thing, if you could sell alcohol, then you're really in a good spot.
It would have been wild. I know. Well, I've got a dream. I want to expand the damn place. I want to make it. I want to find a place in town.
Oh yeah.
I do. It's just so expensive in this town. I can't. It would be a $2 million project.
Yeah,
I know. And it's really hard to figure that out. And so it's. I mean, I got the work ethic. I've got the ideas.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. It would do really well.
It would do really well.
But it's just getting.
No, you've got something special. You've got something
fun.
special.
It's a fun thing, and I think people appreciate it, and I like it. Like I say, I have fun. I mean, everybody makes fun of my Instagram. It's all just humor to me. I feel like I just make a joke. It's like a joke of my life. It's like, well, here I am again. I'm doing this again.
I know.
It's like, and so it's all just a joke. I'm laughing as I'm posting. I'm like, oh, look what I just did.
I know, but there's something that takes it over.
Yeah, well, there's something about the work that I genuinely enjoy doing something crazy like this. I love it, and it's.
It's keep doing it. Don't ever give it a second thought.
I honestly don't have anything else I know how to do. So at this point, this is it until I drop dead over in the corner because I haven't slept in 2 days. So,
but there's something strange to the process where like these years kind of tick by, and I have friends that are like, I'll hear every once in a while because it's comedy and bread is basically what's filling up my Instagram.
Which is hilarious. What a strange combination.
I know, but it makes sense. It really does make sense.
Well, when I'm in here, I think the same thing. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, because there's something, but there is something that's, you just get obsessed. Like, I don't even think twice. Like, people are like, you're posting bread, you with the bread, the bread. I was like, well,
of course.
That's of course, right.
Why wouldn't I? This is me. I mean,
right, exactly. This isn't like something.
And you're so involved in it that it makes sense.
Right.
You're like, I'm so into this. Everybody's going to be into this.
Right, of course.
I mean, why aren't they not going to be fascinated with this little thing that I made?
Yeah, this thing that I just found.
Yeah, why? Yeah. So you just live in your own little head.
No, I know. It's weird.
It's weird.
Maybe we're just weirdos.
We might be. I definitely would maybe say that about myself. I think it's a special sort of person who bakes bread. There are bakers of all sorts in the world, but I think a bread baker is a little bit different.
Right.
I think it's a little bit off kilter.
Yeah, they're a little weird.
Yeah, a little bit strange. But it made me laugh when the pandemic hit, and then it was bread. It was everybody wanted to make bread, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And
I know. See how long they all last.
I was curious, and I don't think they're doing it anymore. And there was this man in town who's a lovely man, Franz Litz. And he gets a lot of bread from me. He loves my Sesame Ring. And my Sesame Ring is this, it's really good. Like, I don't say a lot, like, my stuff's my stuff, but Sesame Ring is basically just our old pizza dough, and it ferments for like 5 days.
Oh, wow.
When it's left over and we didn't sell it. So it was like, I've got this dough in the fridge. So I started just dipping it in water and sesame and sea salt.
Oh, wow.
And making it into these rings, and they're phenomenal. They're just phenomenal. So Franz loves them. He just loves them. I mean, he'll buy 12 of them when I make them. And but he's great. But he is a writer for the New York Times. He does certain things and writes for certain stuff. And so he had come up and he was doing this article because, of course, during that time it was all about sourdough and everybody's going crazy. So he was doing this article for the New York Times about a sourdough library. This guy collecting all these things.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to me. He was telling me the story about these guys in the Klondike when, the gold rush, when that was going on. And these miners would head out there in the snow and they'd wrap their sourdough in the scarves around their necks. Wow. And they would keep the sourdough with them, all the time because it's how they made their griddle cakes.
Right.
So they would in their, wrap it in their scarves.
Amazing.
And I'm thinking, this is incredible. And then, so he's telling me these stories, and I'm thinking about all these people during the pandemic panicking.
Yeah.
And they're hoarding, and these people that were posting, they're like, I'm drying all my starter, and I'm going to send it across the world. And so they're drying their starters, and they're bagging it up in little bags, and they're mailing it to everyone. And everybody's like, well, And I'm thinking, wow, like this is hilarious.
So basic, though.
It's so basic.
Yeah.
It was like everybody went straight down to like.
Yeah, here we are again.
We're back at the bottom. We gotta
Right.
make the bread. Like that's what it is.
I know.
Bread is at the bottom. We gotta.
It's so funny.
And
I
so,
had these mason jars of starter in my refrigerator. And it was like, it's gold now.
It's so
Now
well.
it's like
well, that's what I
valuable.
thought was funny about these Klondike guys. I'm thinking, there they are out there searching for gold, and they're sitting there with this gold on their neck. This like pouch
Yeah.
of sourdough, where they can eat whatever.
There's a character in
It's incredible.
Lonesome Dove.
Oh yeah.
Which is the same thing. This guy, he keeps it in his satchel, like a leather bag.
So
And he
great.
would make the biscuits in the morning and the pancakes.
I'm
just
gonna
from
start
this,
walking around with a sack
he
of
called
sourdough.
It pot dough.
Pot dough.
Pot dough. Yeah. I don't know
Doesn't
why.
make sense. Oh, I think that's brilliant
Making it in
though.
the pot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. They
See?
always had it.
I think that's gonna probably be the next new thing that happens. We're gonna see people walking around with it.
Man,
Oh.
I don't know what the next step is. Like, do I try and destroy my grill outside and put in like a wood burning oven?
Oh, you should.
Of course I should, right?
I think you should do it. Why would you not? I mean, that's ridiculous.
But
It's
man.
funny, but there's things you get. Like my brother has one of those Traeger grills or whatever
the
they're
pellet
called.
grills.
I don't know what they're
those like smokers.
smokers. But
Yeah.
I was in Colorado. He's in Crested Butte,
Uh-huh.
and it was colder than hell. God, I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
saying, wow. Beautiful, but cold. And so, so I was making. I told him, I said, "Look, I need to teach you how to make these savory pies because they're so good." And I said, "You make
Yeah.
a killing out here." He's the chef. I said, "You just start a little pie business out in Crested Butte in the ski season.
Yeah.
You can make a killing." So I'm
Yeah.
showing him how to do it. So I did all the lamination for the puff pastry. We made these pies, and I was gonna put them in the oven. He says, "No, let's go put them on the grill outside." And I was like, "You can't do that. You're not gonna bake them in a grill." He says, "No, you gotta try this." So this Traeger grill, like.
Yeah.
Stick it in there. It just baked up these little pies so beautifully.
Really?
I was like, that's amazing. I'm curious if you could do a loaf of bread in that.
Oh,
Something like
interesting.
that. Like if you could rig it up in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it was
That's
pretty
interesting.
amazing. I mean, I don't know. I took, a long time ago, I did a hike. I did a camping trip out into the Sesame.
Uh-huh.
Because my goal was I'm going to bake bread out in the wilderness. So I thought, this is what I'm going to do.
Nice.
And so I packed up my bag. I had a couple guys that were going to come with me.
Yeah.
One of them backed out. He didn't mean to, but
Uh-huh.
he was going to be the one that was going to carry the Dutch oven. So I strapped I got the Dutch oven on
Oh,
my
man.
back, and I got everything in, and I've got my starter in a jar, and I've got all my stuff I need, and I go out there and dug a pit and burned for like 2 days, and then we just put the bread in the Dutch oven, stuck it in the lower sort of pit, covered it with hot coals. It baked the most beautiful bread I've ever made.
Really?
And I think to myself, I'm like, wow, like, do you really need?
Yeah.
You might not need everything you need.
You don't need
can
that
get
big steam oven.
You don't. You just need a goddamn pit and a Dutch oven. You're
Oh,
fine.
that's amazing.
But I like putting myself in those situations where it's like,
Yeah.
well, I wonder
Right,
if
yeah.
that's going to work. And it may have just completely been a disaster, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. I mean, I had to hang my leaven up in the tree at night. You know how you do, bear sacks because of the bears, so
Yeah.
you string things over the big limbs so the bears can't get it. So I got this bowl wrapped in like something and it's hanging from the tree, and I was like,
That's
I almost
the
wanted
best.
a bear to get it. I thought, ooh,
Was-
that'd be a fun story.
yeah, right, exactly. Bear with
Bear's
like
covered in my starter.
That's
It
pretty
didn't happen,
great.
but it was beautiful bread. I was really impressed. So yeah, so
Wow.
I bet you should build something out your back.
Yeah, I know.
If you're into bread,
I know.
you should do it. You have little
I
pizza
should
parties.
totally do it. I know.
And then
to
you
make
can
pizzas.
Pizzas. You
That's
can
the
also
thing.
do slow roasted things. You make a real do
Yeah.
flatbreads and a slow roast pork. I mean, there's so many delicious things you
I
can do.
know, man. You made a sandwich the other day that was like
So
it was
good.
bigger than my
It was
head.
so good.
It was. You just kept putting more and more
I
stuff
did.
on it.
It was so delicious. It was like, oh my gosh. And you just keep going and you go and go, oh, the sandwiches.
it's
I think
the
I'm
best.
gonna, I love the sandwiches. There's a sandwich for every occasion.
Man, oh man.
I know.
Well, there's going to come a time where I'm going to have to come and just work with you during a bake. At
Oh
some
my gosh,
point
yes, you
and just
can.
hang in here because this place is
it's hilarious.
it's
I'm
like
telling
if you love bread, this is like
This
a
is sort of,
clubhouse.
this is
Yeah.
kind of a funny, it's not your typical bakery. This is a
Yeah.
bread shop.
Yeah, it's a bread shop.
It's a bread shop.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not, we don't have anything fancy going on here.
Yeah.
This is bread and croissants, and that's what I pump out of here. And
But it's so great.
It's great. It's fun. Like I said, it's just all a process. Everything's a process here.
I think that's what as you're saying it, I think this is what I love about it is that it's all for bread. It's all for the great, like the table and the sink.
Everything was pieced together that way, though. And like, I talked to a lot of people in looking for a new place.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people saying, well, you could do it here, you could do it there. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, but a bread kitchen is very specific. Mm-hmm. It's not just a kitchen.
No.
So to go down and get a place that's already got a kitchen in it, then I'm thinking, well, I have to rework the whole place. It's easier to build one.
Yeah.
And to do that because, like, all of this was stuff pieced together, but like I got the laminator and I needed a table. So I was like, my dad's got some guys at his shop that weld, so they welded me a table for it, and like the sink.
Yeah.
That was $200. I got the sink and this walk-in refrigerator.
$200
for I think a total of like $700 cash down at this Dutch guy's place in Ventura. He's crazy. And he said, sure. So I, and it was great. So everything was just sort of this piece thing,
You feel it. It's an organic
It's an organic
shop.
thing.
It grew.
Get this butcher block. Ooh, this is a beautiful piece of wood.
Where'd this come from?
I'm not sure where because I got it and I don't remember where. It's like some Mayan wood place in Ventura or Oxnard. And it's a big piece, and it's just one of the most beautiful things ever to work on.
It's so great. When I would, I went and did this show, and I met these bakers in New York.
Oh yeah.
And they'd been there forever,
oh.
and they make it like the right way.
Was it amazing?
Yeah. They're like it's an Italian bakery, and they've been just doing it for years, the right way. Their tables have like indents in them.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're like they've worn down.
Oh, see, I love that.
I know.
So like you'll go out into the woods out here and you'll see the rocks and you'll see where they've been, like the mortar and pestle sort of idea of when the Native Americans used to do the acorns and stuff, and like that idea. I mean, that's amazing in a table.
Oh my
God.
That. Yeah, no, it's the best. Well, Kate, thank you so much. This was amazing.
This was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be this much fun.
I know.
It's kind of fun to do. Do you do? Okay, good. I had no idea. I didn't know what you were asking me to do.
This is it.
No, it's fabulous. Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And you have some stuff here that I'm going to eat, and I can't do it on mic, so I'm going to end the show.
Yeah. All right.
All right, what do you say we check in with Kathleen Madigan? Let's give her a call and see how she's doing in the pandemic, what she's eating, how she's living. I love Kathleen Madigan so much. Let's give her a call.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Tom.
How are you?
Well, you're interrupting my viewing of Alabama Snake on HBO Max, but I stopped it, even though we're getting to the good part, where the preacher murders her by making her put her hand in a box of rattlesnakes. But that's how much I like you.
You're the best. I miss you.
Yeah, I miss everybody, as it turns out. Turns out I hate people, but I do miss them. Turns out in general.
It's such a weird feeling. It's like, don't you find like at like noon, you're like, oh, I guess I'm done for the day. I don't have to go anywhere tonight. That's nice.
Yeah, nap times come early, but I don't really need a nap because I don't have a show.
Right.
So I guess basically I've just bled quite comfortably into my parents' lifestyle.
It's really true. We're all semi-retired.
Yeah, now I know why my mom and dad, when I called, I go, yeah, we got nothing.
I know. When they get so excited when the mail comes.
Or I'm focused on some idiotic detail that, like, in a busy life would mean nothing. She'll just go on and on about somebody not having their mask on at Kroger. Mom, that happens everywhere. It's not, but that's all she did that day.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I know.
Yeah.
I literally know how many steps it takes from my desk to my bathroom. Because it's the only place I go.
But for people like us that have never, like, I've never been home more than, 3 weeks in a row since I've been 23. So it's been kind of a treat. I don't want to say I'm having a great time during a pandemic because other people aren't.
Sure.
But I am enjoying,
I know.
And all the house things I said I would always do and I don't have time to do, I've done them. Yeah, I've really exceeded my own expectations on myself, which are very minimal.
And isn't it strange, like, being home for the holidays? Like, I've never been home all of December. I'm like, I'm going to put up some more wreaths.
You should see Well, I don't put I put my brother's house on Instagram because we usually have a competition, and I just had to lay down swords this year because he got COVID, so he was home from work, so he got he was pretty sick, but had enough energy to outdo me, and I thought I was really outdoing him because I am never home, and now I was home. I can go to Lowe's every day, Pat. Every day.
They know me by name.
Hey, Kathleen. Hey, Bob. You need some more. You need some more timers. Yeah, the ones that are dusk to dawn, if you could. I don't like those other ones; they're too hard.
Oh, it's so great. How are you eating while you're home? What are you eating?
Way better than on the road, that's for sure. I've lost like 10 pounds because how can you lose weight when because the other people, I don't know, I guess because I don't eat as late at night because I'm in bed by 10:30.
I know.
Whatever time my most recent cult movie's over, I'm done. Or my Hallmark movie. I've eaten way better, way healthier than the road.
Real food. It's not like, even when you're on the road and you eat something, you're like, oh, I'm going to take the healthy choice. You don't realize, it's packed with butter and salt.
Well, and it's also 11:30, and I'm going to bed.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to eat this quesadilla with Chuck Martin and act like that didn't happen.
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's just chicken. No, Kathleen. It's chicken topped with mayonnaise, topped with guacamole in bread. Right. It's terrible. But that's like the healthiest thing they have left at that hour.
I know. It really, that part when you're on the road is so hard. When you're like, I know, when you're in the 20 minutes left in your set on the Late Show, and you're just thinking, your words, you're still telling jokes, and in your brain you're saying, don't eat. We really shouldn't eat. Where are we going to eat? We should go eat.
That's right. Or I just keep thinking, what time did the Marriott say their bar closes? Meaning they have food there, too.
Right.
Like a full-service Marriott. A Courtyard, I know the food's closed, but you can still grab crappy wine or whatever.
Yeah.
Chuck's going to get really mad at me if he can't get a steak. That's another thought that runs through my mind when I'm on stage.
Right.
If I'm with him.
Steak at midnight.
And a martini. He needs both. Like, he's not just okay at Applebee's. I am. He's not.
Right.
Well, look, I've located Frank's Steakhouse and Total Experience, Kathleen. Really, Chuck?
What's your go-to chain when you're on the road?
Usually it's Applebee's because I don't know why. They're just always I can't say it's my favorite.
Right.
I'd rather go to Red Lobster, but that's really fattening.
Yeah.
You just stop after the cheddar biscuits. Just leave after that.
But
and Lewis gets so angry. I cannot believe you eat that crap. I said, Lewis, watch how you use that word crap. Have you had the stuff, Flounder? It's great.
I know. There's a reason it's everybody's first fancy date night.
There's a reason there's a million of them. The first 999,000 didn't suck, Lou. That's how they got to own that millionth one. In Times Square, just to shove it in your face. And I love Cracker Barrel if it's daytime.
The daytime is Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, I don't see it as a night place, although a bunch of them did get a beer and wine license. Because I don't know what kind of beer, and I really want to know what kind of wine, but I know that some of them have it. What is your drinking strategy been when you've been home all this time? Well, I try to go, I'm not going to drink anything till 5. But then I think, well, that's not right, because I wouldn't do that on the road because I would have a show. Right. So maybe I should go to 8. But I'm like, yeah, but if I was on the road, I'd be up till 1. And I'm not. I'm going to bed at 10, so it could be moved back 3 hours. So, yeah, I think because this is so weird to us, I haven't lost my mind at all. Like, I've really enjoyed the time, but especially because there's seasons here because I'm not in California, so like I've never got
Right.
to see all the seasons since I've been a kid, and it's been
Right.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. So
That's good. That's
yeah,
good.
I've
You're
kept
making
everything.
me feel good. Because there is that thing. There is that. Like, we wouldn't have done this unless a global pandemic hit. Like, we would be out there every weekend going super hard, and there is a little part of me that feels guilty about being happy to be home with nothing to do. Because I know when it reboots, we're going to start up again. But there's that little inkling of performer in me that's like, that doesn't want to allow myself to enjoy the time.
Not so much on this end. I'm pretty good with it. Turns out, I could be my parents right now. Yes.
Are you going into retirement?
Well, I would love to. If I had enough money, yes, I would totally do that. But the other thing is, like, if you think about it, I'm enjoying this, and I don't even have contact really, you know, going to the bars and doing the things I normally would do for fun. I don't even have that, and I'm still enjoying it.
Right.
If you let this be normal life, I see no need to ever work again.
Oh, you're the best. I can't wait to see you.
It's not just the work, too, though. It's usually the media thing. I don't hate it when I do it. I like it when I do it, but I hate knowing I have to.
Yes, I know.
The shows are fine. It's all the other crap around the show. Like, and here's the thing, though. Like, I was talking to Ron White, and he said, no. Well, he goes, I don't really particularly feel compelled to be on stage. I said, me neither. Look, I'd love to go to Seattle for the weekend, but that show just interrupts my fun. Like, I'm having a lovely time, and then there's a boat you can take all around the islands of Seattle, but it leaves at 5.
Right. I have to be on stage.
Yeah, I have to take a nap. Be over there at 7.
Oh, it's great. Well, I'm glad you're so happy. It makes me feel better about the whole situation.
Yes, I'm having a lovely time. So is Ron White. So is kind of Louis Black. Those are the people I speak to frequently. And Chuck, he speaks. This is right up our friend Chuck Martin's alley because he really hates people, and now there's a law that he can't go around them. This fits right into his whole personality. Stay home. Don't talk to people.
Yeah.
He's been living like that his whole life.
Oh, good news. I get the FedEx man's here. I've got to go.
Okay, great.
Love you.
Bye.
All right, everybody, that's it. That's our big show. Thank you to Kate Pepper of Kate's Bread. I can't wait to go back and work as an intern in her bread shop. And thank you to Kathleen Madigan. Thank all of you guys for subscribing and liking and starring and enjoying your life. That's what it's all about. We'll see you next time.